Ever wondered what Harry, Hermione, and the rest of Hogwarts looked like in books? There are a few shocking changes in the films, such as Harry having green eyes or Hermione having notorious bushy hair. We are going to discuss the book-faithful looks of each of the key characters in this video, beginning with the main three and moving on to professors, marauders, students, and even the Dark Lord himself. Part of these distinctions will shock you. Let's start. Chapter 1. The Golden Trio of Harry Potter. Daniel Radcliffe played Harry Potter, and a lot of the fans attest that they made the right choice. But there was one detail wanting: his eyes. The books tell how Harry has a round face and beautiful green eyes, like his mother. Sadly, Daniel Radcliffe was allergic to colored contact lenses, and the filmmakers were forced to omit this important aspect. Harry has green eyes, which are mentioned throughout the books. These are his most distinguishing physical characteristic, the thing everyone is talking about since they are the same as the body parts of his mother Lily. It is an important plot line that is sacrificed in the cinematic version. Although Daniel Radcliffe is the right person to portray Harry with the right energy and attitude, the legendary green eyes did not get to film. Chapter 2. The Golden Trio, Hermione Granger. Although Emma Watson did portray Hermione in her immensely clever and rational character, she looked slightly different in the movies as she is described in the books. Hermione, in the books, is depicted as a girl with bushy, brown, uncontrollable hair, massive front teeth, and brown eyes. Her hair was quite true to the original character, including the first few films when it was long, wild, and out of control in Sorcerer's Stones. However, as the movies went on, her hair got increasingly styled and smooth. And these front teeth so visible? They were not displayed on screen. The teeth of Hermione are a point of insecurity to Hermione in both books, and this fact makes the scene, in which they are shrunk by magic in Goblet of Fire, all that much more meaningful. The movies omitted that fact completely. Chapter 3. Golden Trio, Ron Weasley. Among the three, it is Ron Weasley who is most likely incorrect compared to what he was described as in books. Ron is portrayed in books as a tall and lanky boy with bright red hair, freckles, blue eyes, and long nose. Although Rupert Grint did possess these qualities, such as his red hair, the films did not demonstrate one of his most identifiable qualities, his freckled skin. The Ron in the books has freckles. It's mentioned constantly. And of course, Rupert Grint has a few freckles, but they are hardly seen on the screen. The filmmakers also diminished the fact that Ron is a tall and lanky person, and he appears more average than what the beanpole is in the pages. Chapter 4. The Professors Umbridge and Moody. Although the films were brilliant at fabrizing characters such as Snape and Dumbledore, other characters such as Professor Umbridge and Mad-Eye Moody were by no means accurate in the books. That is partially due to the fact that their book descriptions were so hyperbolic to the point of being animal or cartoonish. We will begin with Professor Umbridge. Although Umbridge is likely to be the least liked character in the whole series, her book counterpart may have made her even more terrifying. She is talked about in the book as being a short, fat-looking woman whose face resembled Toad's. Indeed, she had a wide mouth and was greatly flabby, which obviously could not be portrayed in the movie. Imelda Staunton was even brighter, yet she was totally out of place to be far too pleasant-looking than even the most grotesque, toad-faced character that J.K. Rowling had written about. Mad-Eye Moody is another professor who was difficult to portray to because of his exaggerated characterization. He is given in the books as a man with books which were heavily scarred and burly with a face, which looked like it was hewn roughly out of wood. It is said he had great scars on all parts of his face, and had a portion cut off his nose. It would have been almost impossible to portray that realistically, and the films were more geared toward a younger audience. Chapter 5. The Professors Snape, Slughorn, and Lupin. Although Snape was roughly mapped in the films as a scrawny man with an enormous hooked nose, yellow skin, and shaggy black hair down to his shoulders, one major thing was omitted: his teeth. According to the book, Severus Snape has yellow, uneven teeth, which contaminated his intimidating and somewhat unsettling appearance. Alan Rickman was amazing, and yet those flawless teeth made Snape so very genteel. Professor Slughorn did correspond in a few particulars to the books, but there were several important ones which he omitted. He is told as a very fat man in the books, with big belly. However, The most significant fact not presented in the movies was his curious walrus-like mustache. Jim Broadbent took the Slughorn charisma and cowardice to life, but without that famous mustache, he resembled a pleasant grandfather less than the book. Remus Lupin is one of the professors the movies depicted rather well. In the books, he is said to be a man who is very young-faced and mid-30s of age, with his face sore and worn out, and having lines of worry on the face. The movies were especially successful in capturing his appearance, since there was great acting and almost unnoticed visual storytelling that gave him a worn, gentle feel. Chapter 6: The Marauders, Sirius, James, and Peter. We are already discussing Remus Lupin, one of the members of the infamous Marauders, so we are going to examine the other crew members. Sirius Black was being introduced as a handsome man with long and black hair, sometimes messy and large gray eyes. Although the films depicted him as more aged and fatigued in Azkaban, they did not actually reflect his youthfulness. Book Sirius, even since Azkaban, is said to be strikingly handsome. Gary Oldman was superior, and the movies were causing him to appear much worse than the books had made him appear. Equally, his father, James Potter, could not enjoy much screen time as a smaller version of Harry in the films. He is said to have shagriny white-haired hair, brows of gray, firm jaw, and glasses, which are mentioned in the books, and he resembled Harry much. That fact was underlined in the books, and films touched upon briefly. When we look at the movies with young James, the similarity comes out with Harry, but not as it is mentioned in the books. It was commonly believed that the last member of the Marauders, Peter Pettigrew, was book true when it came to his physical appearance. The books state that he was a small, rat-like man with a grubby skin, small watery eyes, and a pointed nose. Timothy Spall got that weird, weaselish appearance flawlessly. Chapter 7: Other Students, Ginny, Neville, Luna, and Draco. We shall continue on to some of the other students of Hogwarts. In the books, Ginny Weasley is written as a girl with the familial red hair and complexion of freckles. Actually, Ginny had been depicted as having red hair in the movies, but on her Just as Ron, the film skipped over her freckled slow. Bonnie Wright was okay as Ginny, but she was not the fire-tempered go-getters of the book Ginny and lacked the determination that her freckles made her look like a real Weasley. Neville Longbottom was reported to be a round-faced boy, plump, short, with buck teeth and blonde hair. The films have done a very good job of portraying him in the previous movies. The actor had fake teeth, plastic behind the ears, padding on his cheeks, and even a fat suit to get more book accurate. It was that commitment that was rewarded, and it was such a satisfying scene to see Neville become a fine-looking young man at the end of the last film. Luna Lovegold is another character which most of the fans agree was played out to perfection. In the book, she is indicated as a girl with long and uncombed dirty blonde hair, and pale eyebrows and bulging silvery eyes. Evanna Lynch was ideal in this role, such that it is difficult to see anyone else as Luna. Draco Malfoy is another character who somewhat matches his book description. He is a thin-looking pale lad with sleek white blonde hair, cold gray eyes, and a pointed face. Tom Felton played off the sneer and privileged attitude of Draco to perfection, although his hair was not as sleekly white as it is described. Chapter 8: The Evil's Dementors, Bellatrix and Voldemort. That being said, now we can refer to some of the more sinister figures of the series. Among the most frightening beings of the series are the Dementors. The Harry Potter books explain the demons as tall, man-like creatures that are about 10 to 12 feet in height and wear tatty and patched black robes and hoods that disguise them into wraiths. They are gray with slim and decaying skins, the corpse of a dead animal, with mouths and eye sockets hidden with flaxing open holes underneath their hoods. The films were fairly successful in portraying their look. Nonetheless, Dementors depicted in the films rather resembled cloaked skeletons. However, many fans think that they should have resembled zombies in cloaks instead. The floating skeletal structure was scary, although it lacked the custodial, decaying flesh found in the books. Bellatrix Lestrange is one of the villains that fans took to their hearts, with Helena Bonham Carter playing an outstanding role. She is also considered to be one of the best characters in the films and highly book true. In the books, Bellatrix is a tall lady and has long, thick, and shining black hair. She possesses slim lips, dark and heavy-eyed eyes, and a strong jaw. We can thus safely say that this description of the movies was not far off. Helena Bonham Carter supplied the necessary level of madness. Now we should speak about the Dark Lord himself, about Voldemort. He is said to be pale with a chalk-white skull face, has slit-like nostrils, has red eyes with pupils like those of a cat, is skeletally thin, and has very long and thin hands with abnormally long fingers. Although the movies did absolutely a fair job to translate this frightening appearance, there was one difference that was apparent, and that was his eyes. Voldemort also has red cat-like eyes in the books. However, the filmmakers decided to provide him with more human-like ones. They feared that it would be difficult to make the actor express any emotion because he had red eyes, and this would be too distractive to the spectators. Instead, they had intended to give him a more snake-like mouth in order to make him look even scarier, but they eventually decided otherwise because they believed that it would be too traumatizing to younger viewers. Thus, we had a Voldemort that was pale and had a snake-like appearance but was missing those one-shot red eyes, making him so unrealistic in the books. Thus, that was what we thought Harry Potter characters looked like in the books. Other ones were of near-flawless quality, such as Luna Lovegood and Bellatrix Lestrange. Others, such as Ron and Hermione, were deprived of some essential features such as freckles and buck teeth. And some, such as Umbridge and Voldemort, were considerably liberalized on screen. One has to keep in mind that there are various limitations of movies in contrast to books. Movie makers must think about child actors who are coming of age, audience sensibility, and what works well on television. Nevertheless, it is intriguing to think of what the Harry Potter lines would have signaled had all the details of the books reached the screen. Tell us what your favorite character is. Are you book obligated or movie team design? And do not forget to subscribe to get more videos. We shall find you in the next.